In this lab activity, we will explore the anatomy of a fetal pig and the following systems: the digestive system, the respiratory system, the circulatory system, the urinary system, and the reproductive system.
Here you see our pig. The head is separated by a movable neck from the trunk, which is split into three parts: the anterior thorax, the posterior abdomen, and the pelvis. Here you can also see the limbs of the pig, which move differently from those of a human. The limb is not as flexible as a human's, and the pig walks on only 2 of its 4 toes. Upon examination, it was determined that our pig was male. Today we are joined by Dr. Isabel, who will tell us about the digestive system of our pig.
In the mouth, there are several structures, such as the hard palate, the soft palate, and the tongue. Taste buds on the tongue allow the pig to taste salt, sweet, sour, and bitter tastes. When food enters the mouth of the pig, the incisor teeth help bite and gnaw. The canine teeth stab and tear, and the molars are used for crushing and grinding the food. The salivary glands produce saliva to break down the food, and are found in the lower jaw. At the base of the tongue, the oral cavity ends and the pharynx begins. The pharynx is the common passageway for food and air. The epiglottis is a flap that separates the windpipe from the esophagus, allowing food to travel to the stomach and air to travel to the lungs. Let's go examine the parts of the mouth.
We are now investigating the mouth of the pig. Here is the tongue. Then there are some teeth. The hard palate at the top of the mouth. And in the back of the throat, the epiglottis is visible as the trough-shaped structure.
Here we see the edge of the epiglottis, the flap that separates the trachea and the esophagus. Here we have the hard structure of the larynx and the tube-like structure of the trachea.
This is the salivary gland.
After food enters the mouth, it travels down the esophagus and into the stomach. The food enters at the cardiac portion of the stomach and leaves through the pyloric portion. The pyloric valve releases partly digested food called chyme from the stomach and into the small intestine. The pyloric valve is very muscular. The stomach has many ridges on the side, which increase the surface area of the internal part of the stomach. Besides secreting insulin and glucagon, the pancreas creates enzymes that can digest food from all the major food groups. Enzymes from the pancreas enter the small intestine through the duodenum. In the small intestine, enzymes needed to break down small polypeptides and maltose, sucrose, and lactose are created and used to break down the chyme. Various hormones used in the digestive system are also created by the small intestine. Inside the small intestine are villi, which are covered by microvilli. They are important because they further increase the surface area of the small intestine used for food absorption. Capillaries and lymphatic vessels take up the end product of the digestion and circulate it to the rest of the body and the liver. Further digestion of fats occur in the liver. Waste product then enters the large intestine and is secreted through the anus. The liver creates bile, which is stored in the gallbladder and used in the small intestine to break down fats. The liver also stores carbohydrates as glycogen and metabolizes amino acids and lipids. Though part of the circulatory system, in the next few videos you will also see the spleen. The spleen is responsible for filtering blood.
As we started to dissect the pig, we found the umbilical vein, which runs from the umbilical cord into the liver.
Here we have the liver, and underneath we see the umbilical vein that we've cut and the second lobe of the liver, as well as the gallbladder right here. Here underneath the liver we have the stomach and the spleen, the large intestine or the colon wrapped up together, and the small intestine in this ball of intestine.
Our small intestine measured to be 280 centimeters, creating a 9:1 ratio between its length and the length of the pig. Wow! Dr. Izzy joins us again to talk to us about the circulatory and respiratory system of the fetal pig.
The respiratory system begins in the external opening of the snout. The turbinate bones help increase the surface area of these passages. Air then enters the glottis and travels through the larynx, where the vocal cords are located, and continues through the trachea until air finally reaches the lungs. The epithelial lining of the trachea secretes mucus to trap foreign particles and cleanse the incoming air. The lungs are found within the thoracic cavity, along with the heart. Air from the trachea enters the bronchi, which divide into smaller and smaller bronchioli, leading to the microscopic alveoli, the functional units of the lungs. The alveoli's moist walls carry an enormous amount of surface area, through which gases enter and leave the body. The right lung has 4 lobes, and the left lung normally has 2 or 3. However, in the fetal pig, the lungs were thin and not yet fully developed. When you breathe in, your lungs expand and pull in air. The enlargement of the thoracic cavity with each breath creates negative pressure around the lungs, allowing air to rush into them. The circulatory system is interconnected with the respiratory system in order to deliver oxygenated blood throughout the body. The heart is a double pump that separates the pulmonary and systemic circuits. Blood is first sent to the lungs to receive oxygen, and then returns to the heart to be pumped to the body through high pressure. Arteries carry blood from the heart to the rest of the body and end in tiny capillaries where exchange of nutrients, gases, and waste with the tissues occur. Blood is then transported back to the heart through the veins. This occurs in a closed circulatory system because blood is contained within the vessels of the heart. The heart consists primarily of 4 chambers, the right and left atrium and the right and left ventricles. The aorta is the major artery of the circulatory system and contains blood under the highest pressure. The aorta is very thick-walled. Veins, in comparison, are very thin and contain valves so that the blood will flow only towards the heart and not travel to the legs because of gravity. Blood from the lungs drains into the pulmonary veins and is oxygen-rich. The main vein is the vena cava. Now, let's explore these systems in the fetal pig.
Go.
Here we see the underdeveloped lung. It's one of the last systems to be fully developed in a fetus. Here we see the heart, a large muscle, and the second lung, which has 2 lobes and is more developed. Here at the top of the heart, you see the anterior vena cava, the blue vein, and the common carotid or artery, the more pale yellowish vein. Moving along the heart, you find the coronary artery along the side of the heart, which is here. And then underneath the heart, we lift up and we see the vena cava, this large blue vein. The dorsal aorta is difficult to see, but is underneath.
This is the posterior vena cava.
Traveling down through the abdomen, we see, it's quite difficult, but we see the right renal artery.
This is the hepatic portal system. In the hepatic portal system, blood travels from the heart to the arteries, to the intestinal capillaries, into the hepatic portal vein, which is under the liver, back into the liver, into the capillaries, into the veins, and back up to the heart. This allows for the liver to efficiently process nutrient-rich blood after digestion of a meal. And now for the final 2 systems, the urinary system and the reproductive system.
When proteins are broken down to carbon skeletons, a nitrogenous waste called urea is formed, which is excreted by the urinary system in the form of urine. In this video, you will see the kidneys, which serve as the main excretory system. The adrenal medulla secretes hormones for the bloodstream, while the adrenal cortex secretes a variety of steroid hormones. The ureter connects the kidney to the urinary bladder, where you excrete urine. The male reproductive system joins the urinary system through the common urethra. Like the ovaries, the testes have 2 functions. They produce the sperm cells of the male that enter the vas deferens, and they produce the male sex hormones, principally testosterone. Testosterone is released directly into the bloodstream and leaves the testes in the spermatic vein, not in the vas deferens. It determines the sex of the pig and allows it to function sexually as a male.
Cut open it.
Here we see the kidneys.
Cut open it so you can see
inside
the testes, but
the outer
part of the testes
section is the cortex.
Mass.
And here we see the inner medulla, the renal arteries and veins, and then we follow the ureter down to the bladder, which will excrete urine. Here we have the testes, which is connected to the vas deferens, which connects it to the urethra and the bladder.
Are you cutting bones? We hope you have enjoyed our video and have learned just as much as we did. We had a lot of fun dissecting our pig.